Well, if you have anything on your desks, you can remove them. As you know, there is no need to take notes. Play with your cell phone, desktops, laptops. Do you have any questions before we talk about the syllabus for a few minutes and then go home? Matthew?
Do we have a responsibility to be reflective human beings, or should we indulge in living an autopilot lifestyle?
I think organically you're supposed to live a very instinctual life. Just react to things. Reflection is a disease that you impose upon life. I mean, if no one had created or invented the mirror, you could just go around, and if you happen to hang out with people who are mute, no one would ever tell you how ugly you look. And so you would always be self-confident, you'd always be okay with yourself. But the moment there is a mirror and you look at yourself, and something about you reflects back and says, Matthew, you're ugly. And then comparing, contrasting, feeling bad about yourself. We are not very reflective human beings to begin with. Nothing that we do is an expression of reflection. Taking classes. I mean, if you were to really sit back and think about the way that you and I live our lives, there'd be a good chance you would go to Bay Bridge and just jump. I mean, some of you in this class who have companions, think for a moment, why are you with them? Silly reasons. Why do you sign up for this class? I mean, really, really deeply reflect. No. Compare your life to, say, Gandhi. Compare your life to the life of, say, Malcolm X. You amount to nothing, you're worthless. That's why you should never think. Which is the hallmark of being a true American, not thinking, not reflecting. It's good, there's nothing wrong with it. The only thing you want to pray for or hope for is that you will never suffer negative consequences. In other words, just be a non-thinking animal and just do things and hope that things will turn out to be okay. Get drunk. Say yes to a proposal while being drunk and hope you will stay drunk for the rest of your life. Never find out what your wife or your husband do behind your back. Never. As long as you don't think about those things, you'll be fine. Reflection always goes against life, always. Look at our good friend, Isabel. Isabel? Izzy. Oh, Elsa. No. What is your name? Elise. I know. You ask her, how old are you? 24. She was about to weep. Cry. Why? She graduates, age of 17 and a half? Please. I know that life happens, but the usual path is get yourself to school, get it done by the time you're 20, at least college. Get yourself to 4-year school, you're done by 22 with your bachelor's. But you don't think. This happens. Before you know it, you're 50, you sit in this classroom. It's awful. Yes?
Is a large part of ethics based in reflection?
No.
How so?
Just trust me. It's too early for order. You guys, look. You have a boyfriend, right? Which I'm very sorry to hear, but nevertheless, things are going fine. Let's just say you love him. I mean, you don't, but let's just say you do. How old are you? 21. In a few years, you're going to come to the conclusion that he's no good for you. Maybe you have reached that conclusion like years ago, right? But as long as you're able to distract yourself, the two of you sitting somewhere eating honey, you'll be fine. But then all of a sudden, there appears a crack in the relationship. Maybe psychologically you outgrow him or something. Maybe you'll catch him like doing something awful. And all of a sudden pain happens. Pain is something that you and I don't really enjoy. Pain forces you into pause. And if it's really, really, really painful, you stop, you sit somewhere, and then you cry. And then you have regret. And then you go through this grieving process, and now you begin to reflect. How could I have been so stupid? How could I have been so dumb? 8 billion people on this planet, and I chose that loser. So reflection is the outcome of pain. You just don't do it naturally. It's not part of who and what you are. Otherwise your life would stop. Allahu Akbar. Yes.
I was going to ask, do you think Amir was invented by somebody who was on autopilot or instinct?
I don't really know. I'm not a scholar in meteorology. Yeah. All I can tell you is that for someone like Thomas Edison, his mom was about to die, and when the doctor was called over, he said that it was nighttime. He said that I can't operate. There's no light. They lit some candles, and the surgeon told him that it's not enough. So he broke into the shop and stole like 50 mirrors and placed them all around, his mom. And now it's like the sun is in the room. And so when his father came in the morning and saw all these mirrors, and he was told that your son Thomas stole them, he just beat up Thomas. His father did, until he was told that if it wasn't for him stealing the mirrors, your wife would have been dead. And then he kisses his hand and apologizes. And from that point on, Thomas Edison comes to realize that perhaps it would be beneficial for human beings to have some light around. Is it accidental? I don't know. Is it part of his destiny? I don't know. About 99% of life really is just about luck. So, anyone else before we go home? No? Just Raj?
Is it okay to do curious acts with precautions?
If what?
Is it okay to do curious acts with precautions?
What do you mean?
For instance, like laws, like they're just laws only apply if you really get consequences. You wouldn't kill somebody, but now somebody came to kill your son. Now you be willing.
Without going into extreme.
Yeah, that's just like.
So I usually get to campus around 4:15. When I get to Lakeshore, there are all these traffic lights. And my luck, they always turn red. So I have to wait for like 10 minutes for each light to turn green. I can leave, I can drive, but the only problem is there's a camera. I don't even know if it's working or not. But do I want to risk paying $500? No, so I just wait and wait and wait and wait. Do I have fantasies about coming there with my gun and shooting those cameras? Yeah. Do I ever happen? No. So fear is a good motivator. Law, it just creates fear, like this class. Miss an assignment, you fail. Miss a class, you fail. Ask too many questions, you fail. Look bad, you fail. Smell, you fail. And that fear, it's good. Fear is good. What was your name? D? Daniel.
How do you maintain a healthy mindset and a productive lifestyle with the consequences of life?
Oh, you can't. It's not possible. No. It's like saying, how do you keep love alive in a relationship. You can't. Life is profoundly layered, it's complicated. Responsibilities, obligations, the things you don't really want to do, but you have to. I mean, this class is no good. I'm no good. But you want to transfer, which means what? You have no choice but to be burdened. So you leave the class frustrated. Then you have to write essays. That creates more frustration. No doubt you have a job that you don't like.
Sorry, I love my job.
Well, that's going to change. So the point is, that's what happens in time. What time does, it slowly begins to rust everything you enjoy. Just go back to the first bike that your parents bought you. You were overjoyed. The first video game you got. The more you use something, the less interesting it becomes. And jobs are no different. You think I was always like this? So miserable? No. You think my beard was gray? No. You think I was born bald? Well, yeah. At the point I'm trying to make, time does something really devastating to you. But you won't get that right now because you're far too young. You have too much power in life. You are far too hopeful. Just wait. None of us in this class desire to be like our parents. They go to work 9 to 5, they come home exhausted, they rarely talk to one another, they sit by the TV, eat their food, and they just pass out. And as a young kid, you look at them and say, no, my life is going to be so different. You have no idea what it means to be a parent, to live as an immigrant in this country. Money, rent, obligations, responsibilities, are you kidding? So, any other questions? Isabel. By the way, this class is supposed to inspire you.
Is there any reason that we should be Is there any benefit to being pessimistic in regards to thinking in this way?
Pessimism can happen in two ways. You're either born as an introvert, which means that you turn out to be someone like Søren Kierkegaard, a Danish philosopher around the 19th century, where he says, I put my hand in life. You know how sometimes you taste soup? Like you make some stuff, you put it on the stove, and then you taste it, and you say, oh, it lacks salt, or it has too much sugar, or there's too much crap in it, right? Kierkegaard says, well, I put my hand in this pot called life. I smell it. It smells like nothing. That's Kierkegaard. He didn't have to read a lot of books to come to realize that life smells like nothing. No. We were just born that way. Okay. Some people, what happens is they go through a lot of life experiences. Imagine you're a person of color. Have you ever seen that movie, that show on TV? Prince of Bel-Air?
Yes.
Yeah, so what happens in Prince of Bel-Air is there's Carlton and Will Smith, right? Now, Carlton doesn't really know what racism is. He thinks all people are nice, are just, are compassionate, are fair, until one night, as him and Will Smith are driving, they get pulled over by this cop. And Will keeps telling him, the cop is racist. But Carlton, because he has no idea what that means, says, no, it was just an innocent mistake. Until, of course, his father comes in. And they're released. Hello. So, little by little, you realize that life just pops all the bubbles in your life. But that usually takes a while. You know, one of the nice things about being young is that you have hope. And those hopes are never challenged, tested by life, because you're far too young and you haven't really been in life too much. Anyone else before we... Samantha. I'm sorry, what is it?
Jocelyn,
Jocelyn.
how do you navigate life without that hope? Like, what's like the motivating factor after that?
Well, thankfully, this learned pessimism, which is, it's something you experience by going through various events in life, and when you get to be like 60 or 70 and 80, you kind of sit back, look at your life, and you say, about 90% of the things that I did, I shouldn't have done. I mean, imagine all of us parents in this class taking our kids to Target, buying them like ridiculous toys. I mean, as a parent, you can say, this is so stupid. But for a kid, it's really, really good. right? But you were once that kid, begging your parents to take you to a store, buying you this ridiculous gift, right? But it took you about 20 years to figure out how dumb it is, how silly it is. Not for the child, but for you. And life is very much the same. That you're going to go to school, you're going to get degrees, you're going to get a job, you're going to get married, you're going to have a dozen or half dozen kids, you're going to buy a house, you're going to do all the things that people usually do. Unless, of course, you happen to be in a war zone. That's a different story. Okay? And there is going to come a time, and unfortunately it happens to all of us, because life pushes you into reflecting, thinking, examining, evaluating. And then you may come to this grim conclusion that, many of the things that you did, you shouldn't have done. Now, while you're young, you're not contaminated like that, which is really, really good. You walk into relationships with a lot of hope. You walk into classes with a lot of hope. You interview for jobs with a lot of hope. You enter into new relationships with hope. It's wonderful. And then little by little, cracks begin to appear. And there is no Botox in life. Sometimes you can get rid of your wrinkles by injecting stuff, but life is a different story. I think, who was it, Betty Davis? Old age is not for sissies. You really have to be tough-skinned to exist in life, to survive life.
So would you say that you should hold on to the hope you have, or do you think it's smarter to abandon?
No, you should hold on to it. You should never take philosophy classes. You should never take any classes that inspire reflection. You're not dying, are you? You should always get into relationships that don't create pain and consequently thinking. You should never have arguments with anyone. You should just live in the Garden of Eden.
Is there any way to enjoy the reflection of your life? Like, is there another side to that?
Well, when I was very, very young in Iran, there was a revolution. I was fascinated by people being shot. I was fascinated by carrying people to the cemetery, going to the mortuary, washing the corpse and burying them. For some strange reason, I just liked that experience. So when I came to America, I volunteered. There was a cemetery in Sacramento, Sunrise Boulevard. It's a beautiful cemetery. It's a few acres. I went there when I was very, very young. I said, I'm willing to volunteer, wash corpses and whatever you guys want me to do. Initially, it jolts your system, it shocks your system, because it's such it's not a thing that you experience on a daily basis, right? And you have no idea what's happening in your psyche. You're going up and down all the time, because experiences, they have a tendency of creating emotions. And some emotions, most emotions, if they happen to be negative, they remove power from you. The only reason why some of you can tolerate me right now is you have the power to imagine what you're going to have for lunch, what's after this class. You can daydream. In other words, you're not paying attention to what I'm saying. That's power, right? And as long as you have that power, you cannot give me a deaf ear. What I say doesn't impact you. Or maybe you're just not at a certain stage in life where what I say forces you to think or reflect. Okay? So what happens when you have an experience that's a little uncommon, your body reacts negatively. If you're around that experience over and over and over and over again, your body adjusts. Remember, we've been here for a few millions of years. We are profoundly resilient. What did Katy Perry, who said, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger"? Who? They're all the same. Now, and to some extent it's true, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but as long as you know how to use it. There are lots of people who have experiences and it plunges them into depression. And that depression, when unchecked, becomes chronic. And then you can never get yourself out. From that point on, you're hooked on drugs and other forms of, destructive patterns of behavior. Yeah, if you're able to, get the tools and work with something, you'll be fine. But that usually takes a while. It's an art. Anyone else before we talk about the syllabus? Awful, just awful. Anyone else?
Can I go to the bathroom?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you can do an experiment. So, from 1 to 10, or 0 to 10, how badly do you need to use the restroom? That's not true.
That's a 10.
Is it? You've been holding it this long?
Uh-huh.
Oh. Can you hold it longer?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
You know what pain does?
Yeah.
Pain removes all the things you think about. Your identity, your meaning, your purpose, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your dog, your cat. Everything that used to be important no longer is important. All you think about is, I want to pee. Your entire life revolves around peeing. You, in fact, embody peeing.
Yeah.
If I was to ask you, what's your name? Pee.
Yes.
What's your last name? Pee.
Yes.
What do you want to do in life? Pee. You become focused. That is what pain does. Go. Anyone else before we do the syllabus? No one?
Good analogy.
I'm sorry?
It was a good analogy that we just used.
You're very kind. Thank you.
Fruitful.
All right, let's do the syllabus and then go home. My apologies then. What can you do? Keep in mind that covering the syllabus is enormously boring. If you don't want to be bored, you should ask a question. If you have no questions, then you deserve to be bored. Jocelyn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good job. Okay. So, if
Kids. Yeah,
how would you help someone?
you can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. There are lots of husbands who go to their wives and say, I'm a drunk, help me. But they're not ready. There are lots of people who say, I want to graduate. I want to pass this class. But their life is far too busy. They're not really that interested. They have a moment of inspiration. But that inspiration is momentary. Half of the people in this class, this is a repeat for them. They failed the first time.
You get somebody to help themselves.
No. That's even more difficult. It's like telling an alcoholic, well, don't drink. Are you kidding? 20 years of addiction, habits, routines. How do you overcome all that? Fear, anger, all your contacts on your phone, people who drink like you, smoke like you, do idiotic things like you. No, I mean, that's your community, that's your tribe. That's where you find home. You lose that, you have nothing. And what the hell do you do with the misery of life? That's the only way you numb yourself. You drink, you smoke. Yeah, Matthew, and then Jocelyn.
So should society strip a lot of elements of free will to keep people healthy and in line?
Well, it depends at what stage. At this stage, I mean, look, when I was in Iran as a student, every time an instructor would walk in, we would just stand up. Because teachers symbolized the house of wisdom. Teachers just earned your respect. It didn't matter who they were, what they were, how they used to teach, if they were vicious and loud and obnoxious, none of those things mattered. If a teacher walks in, you stand up. And that is a cultural thing. In other words, from the moment you're born, when your father comes home, you stand up. When you have guests, you stand up. When neighbors walking, you stand up. It's just part of the culture you grow up with. Here, Imagine if I had this requirement every time I walking stand up. Well, you have to fight with students for the next 16 weeks. You're invading my rights. I'm an individual. You're a brown man. I'm a white man or a black man or a blue man. You're from the Middle East. I'm American. We're all equal. Are you kidding? Who's got time for all that? Just sit down. It's okay. So it really depends on what stage in your cultural evolution you want to create changes. Right now, you can't. It's too much. America is the way it is because of what happened 600 years or 700 years earlier. And you have to know that. That America is the outcome of the Renaissance period. The Renaissance is the outcome of the bubonic plague. And before that, the West is the outcome of Jesus Christ, Christianity. If you don't understand those things, you just think that you are the way you are because you will yourself to be this way. Stupid people who are not educated always think too highly of themselves. Yeah, so you can't make changes. It's impossible. You can make changes in people in two ways. Either you catch them at a moment where they're in a great amount of pain, where they're beginning to examine everything about who and what they are. That's a good time if you can find them, if the two of you meet at the right time, or when they are very, very young, when you can groom them. In between is going to be really, really tough because you have to deal with someone's history, someone's addiction, someone's habits, too much. It's complicated. Every person in this room who's been addicted to anything, whether it's watching certain images on laptops, smoking or drinking, whatever the case may be, having anger issues, having a past that makes you angry all the time, there is a desire for you to want to change. The desire is great, it's noble, it's beautiful. Is it going to happen? No. Unless you have like superhuman powers. And you need to have a support system. No alcoholic can overcome alcohol by themselves. They need a support group, hence AA. Without that, you won't go anywhere. It's impossible. Friendships are really important. Anyone else? All right, syllabus. My office is in the Tower Building, room 402. I'm on the 4th floor. I like to be left alone. So, if you have any questions, bring them to class. If there are things that you want to talk about and they're very, very personal, learn how to ask your questions in public in an impersonal way. It's an art, right? But should you still desire to come to my office, make sure you email me first. Don't just show up. Call me, text me, email me, say, hey, listen, I want to come by on Monday at 9. Is it possible? I'm in my office from 4:30 in the morning until about 9. You can come at any time. I prepare about 4:45. If you come before 7, the Tower Building is closed. So you just have to wait for a few hours. But don't ever come to my office empty-handed. I am from the Middle East. Always have a gift in your hand. And don't bring me things that you like, bring me things that I like. I like coffee beans, dark, a pound. And then give me the coffee bag and then be on your way. One of the nice things about giving people gifts is that you create this feeling that they owe you. If you were to give me coffee from Wednesday every week. You come to my office and give me a bag of coffee. In about 16 weeks' time, this class will be over, and I have to give you a final grade. I'm going to get to your name, and I'm going to realize you haven't been to class often, you haven't done much work, and if you've done, it's just infantile, and you really just have earned yourself an F. But then I say, oh, he or she brought me coffee every week. That's like almost $20 a bag. Time, energy, money. That's a lot of sacrifice. And I'm forced to give you a passing grade. Is this a bribe? Yeah. Am I bribable? Yeah. Am I encouraging you to lie and cheat your way through life? Yeah. It's called ethics. My email is on the syllabus. I like to be left alone. Don't email me. But if you desire to send me an email, make sure you have a greeting. Hey Amir, how are you doing? How's your family? By the way, and then go on with your whatever. When I first came to America in 1979, I think, I landed in a place called Davis. There were no cars way back then. They hadn't yet been invented. People were riding their bikes everywhere. And I remember the first time I walked the streets, people would go like this to me all the time. I had no idea what this meant, because when I lived in India, people actually looked each other in the eye and greeted one another respectfully, in a dignified way. In Iran was the same way. America was a different place though. We would just go like this. So I go to my aunt and I say, do people have Tourette's? What's wrong with them? She says, no, she says, that Americans have found a way to conserve energy. It's called EV greeting. That when they nod you this way, it means, hello, how are you? How's your family? It's good to see you, bye. All in just a head gesture. America is a young culture. It's an uncivilized culture. So should you want to email me or anyone under the sun, it's just good practice for you. It's an expression of maturity, of respectability, that you actually have parents who raise you the right way, that you have the ability to think and reflect. So always start with a greeting. Any questions so far? No one? So you're okay with the office and email formats? Excellent. What else am I missing? Try not to use your cell phones. No, it's good. It's good. It's good. Rudy, what are you doing? Yes, try not to use your cell phones. I also have this urge of checking my phone to see if anyone important texted me. The sad truth is there is no one important in my life, which means that what they have to say also is not important. Yes?
That you're important
I'm not important,
to yourself?
not even to myself. And because I have no one important in my life, there is nothing important to read. So, I understand sometimes there are emergencies, but for the most part, you have really nothing to say to anyone, and no one really has anything to say to you. But many of you are far too young to really understand that. So you will do what you have to do, just out of respect for, I suppose, me, this class, and to overcome certain perhaps bad addictions or habits. Every time you have this urge, this itch to look at your phone, just try to overcome it. There are, in fact, AA centers for people who want to recover from technology. So it's a new addiction that people have. Yeah, Danielle?
I was gonna say, if it's alright with you answering, did you have anyone important in your life at any point?
Yeah?
That's it.
You see, when I was born, some 2 years ago, the most important person in my life was my mom. I didn't know that, but it was my mom because first she had to carry me, then she had to nurse me, then she had to wipe me, and then feed me. Then she had to help me sit up, and then she had to help me stand, and then help me walk, and then help me run. Once I realized I don't need my mom for certain things, she became less important. But then I gravitated towards my father, because through him I could buy a bike, or get a bike, and get a car. He became more important. But then there came a point where he was no longer that important. And then I went out, like you, I turned to be 18, 19, and I find myself a girlfriend. She became the most important. She was the sun. I was a planet revolving around her. Until time did something to my passion for her. She became less interesting. The people that you call important is because you need them. You spend time with them. They grow on you. They create emotions and feelings and history inside you. They glue you together. Then something strange happens. You're able to walk, to run, to make your own money, to have your own thoughts, to drive yourself here and there. And all the people you assume to be important become less important. And then you get really, 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 really sick. And then you realize the only person who has the utmost importance in life is you and your health. Other people are just there to serve you. Now I call my parents, not because they're important to me. My father is 92, out of respect, love, care. Do I go there every day? Of course not. Do I call them every day? I do, only for a second. You should read the Bible. Everything has a season. Season. Winter, fall, summer, spring. Some people come to be profoundly important, but then their season is over. They become less important. And then they die. But you frame their picture. You put them on the fireplace. And then you realize it's taking too much space. You put them in the garage. And then you realize after a while, you don't really need the frame anymore. You just trash it. Then you have memories of them. You don't have to believe me. Just observe your own experiences in life. And you'll realize it's true. Anyone else? Rosalind.
A lot of topics you talk about how loss creates like reflection, this and that. And then my question is loss the catalyst for every type of thinking in life?
So what all of us have in this class is some kind of a GPS. So that you know that on Mondays and Wednesdays, you come to class at 9:30 to about 10:45. When the class is over, you walk your sari behind to the cafeteria, grab yourself a cup of coffee, and walk to the next class. And then around 1 o'clock, all your classes will be over. Then you'll go home, make yourself some lunch, take a nap, get up and do some schoolwork. That's your GPS. Okay? And then comes Friday or Saturday. You wake up, but there is nothing to do. And it makes you feel uneasy. You want to create a GPS, but you're restless. And even though you may kind of reflect and say, okay, what am I going to do? The confusion is overpowering. And confusion is not just like you sitting somewhere not knowing exactly what to do. It creates a good amount of emotions. Emotions that attack your psyche. That all the things that used to give your life meaning no longer can. You read a book, you put it down. You watch a movie, you turn it off. It doesn't matter what you do. You're restless and you don't know what to do with this confusion. And so all these emotions come about. And remember, our task in life is to gain power, not only over ourselves and other people, but over life. We don't want to be confused. It's not a healthy state. I mean, you're not confused because you're trying to solve a math problem. You're confused because under the sun there is nothing for you to do and there is nowhere for you to go. So you try to figure some things out, but you realize you can't. So out of confusion comes frustration. Now, frustration is another negative emotion, and you want to have power over it. You know, for those of us in this class who have kids, take a shower. Okay, Mom. Take a shower. Okay, Mom. I told you 10 times, take a shower. And if you pay attention, you realize the volume of your voice keeps going higher and higher and higher. And then the end result of irritation, frustration, agitation is anger. You scream now. And your kid looks at you, how violent you are, and all of a sudden they have fear. They jump in the shower. So it depends what you're confused about, how long the confusion lasts, if you're able to overcome it quickly or not. It has a lot of moving parts. Reflection is a very, very mature stage to be, and I'll give you this example and then, yeah, we have time. Do you have a boyfriend? Good. Well, when you leave him, or let's do it the way that will work for our conversation, let's just say your boyfriend will leave you. Okay? Now, let's add a few components to this. You love him and he loves you. Now, oftentimes in relationships, people love in different ways and for different reasons. And it's never really an equal relationship. In other words, two people don't love the same. One always loves more. Okay? So let's say you love him more than he loves you. You went to Whole Foods, you bought all the stuff to make some food for dinner tonight. It's your anniversary, like your, 2 weeks anniversary. And you go home and he's packed up, he's ready to leave. Where are you going? I'm leaving you. Why? You suck. What? I love you. I don't care. Now, you're not going to sit back and say, let me examine this. No. You're going to be pissed off. Because you have hopes, you have dreams, you have purpose, you have meaning, and all those things all of a sudden crumble. All of them. You want to figure things out, but you can't. So you're going to be angry for a while. Your friends are going to call you to make you feel okay, but no one can reach you. And that's one of the things about pain. Pain pushes you into this place called aloneness. You're profoundly alone, and you're miserable. Your language is layered, pregnant with feelings and emotions you don't really understand. Your hopes have been crushed. So you just hang up the phone, you close the blinds, you turn off the lights, and you just cry. Now, everybody has a different timetable. Some people overcome grief after 2 weeks, some people after 2 years. No one knows how long it's going to take you. If you happen to be at the right place in life, you're going to go back and examine all the steps you took. What made you choose this person? why you fell in love with him, why you invested all this time, hope, energy. Nobody really does that. You just get over this person and you go on your Facebook page, you find another person. And this happens over and over and over again until you just grow really, really tired and disgusted of yourself. Once that happens, hopefully, when you come out of your chronic depression, maybe you'll have a chance to reflect. How old are you? So for those of you in this house who have some age on you, just go home today, look yourself in the mirror, and ask yourself why you're still at Laney College. Reflection. And there's a good chance that you won't stay at the mirror for too long, because it creates a lot of pain. You realize you've done a lot of stupid things in your life. Life gets busy, I understand. So it's a painful thing. You don't want to do it. Anyone else? Yes.
Is there any benefit in lying?
Yes. You must lie all the time. See, lying has worked really well for you.
Well, so how? Why,
Please,
why would
just hold on. You fall in love because you think you know what love is. That's the first lie. That's great. You make decisions because you trust the way you think about things. That's another lie. It works for you. It protects you, it helps you, moves you along life. You should always lie. If someone comes in and says, "How do I look?" "You look beautiful." What's the flip side? "You look ugly?" No, you don't want to say that. Anyone else? So lie well. Yeah, Dan?
In the video,
Yes.
there you described one function almost in a parasitic way. If it's so damaging to the self, why do it all?
So we have, I think, two kinds of lives. The first is, as a kid, you just do things. As an adult, you just do things. And you just do things based on the assumption that you've made all the right choices, you've examined things enough, and most often, you just jump into things, you know? The problem with life is that life always creates wrinkles. Always. Always creates cracks. And every crack you fall into, there's a good amount of pain to be experienced. And whenever you have pain, there's a sense of loss, that you thought this is going to benefit you. But now you're at a place of loss. What the hell are you going to do now? And you're not really going to look at the decision-making process or steps. What you're going to do is, how do I resolve the situation right now? In other words, if, for example, you have a companion and you guys have gone through a breakup, you don't sit back and say, let me study the anatomy of a relationship. Okay? You don't say, well, how do relationships come about? Well, relationships are an outcome of desires. Why do I have desires? Where does love come from? What is attachment? What is hope? None of us do that. All we do is, you know what? I'm just going to do my best to forget about A altogether. I'm going to give myself some time. And just in case I can't get rid of the image, I'll do A, B, C, D to distract myself. And after a while, when there is a good amount of distraction, you feel yourself to be relatively fine, you'll go back out on the dating scene. And then you find another person. And then that breaks down. I mean, you need to consider for a moment that right now in America, the divorce rate is about 60%. 60%. And if I was to put this in a layman's term, I would say it this way. When my parents came here with $30,000 in 1985, like all immigrants, you want to get a business. That's how you survive. So we looked at all these businesses. One in particular was a muffler shop. After looking at the books, we realized that this business is just going down. It's bankrupt. Why would you want to invest your money, your time, your energy in a thing that's bankrupt? Right now, relationships are on the verge of bankruptcy. But you don't look at relationships like that. You say, no, everybody is going to die except me. Everybody will get sick except me. Everybody will divorce except me. And that exclusion gives you a good amount of hope. It'll make you delusional that it's never going to happen to you. Let me end the class with this. In March of last year, I went to visit a doctor. She's very, very, very cute. And I said, you know, Doc, whenever I think of you, there is this burning sensation right in the middle of my chest. She got really excited. She said, take off your clothes. I said, okay. She wanted to examine me. She realized that my heart is not doing too well. So after a few tests, they realized that my arteries are clogged. I am a good candidate for a heart attack. A week later, I underwent an open heart surgery. Oh, just a few months ago. And while I was given the news that they have to crack open my chest, go inside, do ABCD, the only thing I could do was to laugh. I found it funny that someone like me could actually have a triple bypass. I exercise every day. I'm like a mule. I'm very physical. You know, how could someone like me undergo this? And it's a funny thing, you know. And that's the thing. You know, everybody else sucks except me. And that gives you a good amount of hope. And you carry that with you. Until you realize you're not really exempt, as Sigmund Freud would say, you're not exempt from the slings and arrows of life. You will get old. You will look ugly. You will begin to smell. No one will really like you. And eventually you will die and you will be forgotten. These are just facts of life. And as long as you have hope, you're not going to think. You're not going to reflect. It's too painful. And there is another thing that you need to understand about reflection. Reflection is about being mindful. How old are you? 24. You've made enough mistakes in your life. Right? And life is what? Every morning you wake up, you have to make decisions. You have to make choices. And if you were to say, listen, Dan, you don't want to repeat the past like 10 years. Okay? Because that would paralyze you from doing anything. One of the awful things about us, or maybe wonderful things about us, is our ability to forget. We forget. Ask any mother in this room, any woman who's ever gone through labor. It's one of the most painful experiences you will ever have. And then they'll do something crazy. They'll have a second one, and a third one, and a fourth one. Why? Well, you forget how painful the experience was. You know how painful it was for this woman to walk out of your life. You were miserable. You were depressed. You were lonely. You were sad. You were suicidal. You promised yourself never again to enter a relationship. Time passed. What happens to you now? You're a brand new one. We forget. And every time you forget, it's replaced by a good amount of hope, passion. Wonderful. For those of you who don't like dark outlook on life, I invite you to maybe read the New Testament, the life of Jesus Christ and what he said. There is nothing light about his words. Read the life of Muhammad, Gandhi, Malcolm X, the Buddha. Miserable people. Their outlook, miserable. They give us a lot of hope, but they say if you want this hope to come to life, a lot of work is to be done. It's just too much. Anyone else?
Is it delusional to believe there's an afterlife?
That's a difficult question. At a certain point, in digging up some corpses, they came to realize next to the body are weapons. When you go back to the cave paintings found in Spain and France, I don't know how true or accurate, the commentaries are, but scholars who have studied this stuff, they argue that about 50, 60,000 years ago, when there was no Islam, no Hinduism, no Buddhism, no Christianity, no Judaism, people actually did believe in such things. When you go back to the ancient life of Egypt, there are three kingdoms, old, middle, and new. In the old kingdom, there is no notion of afterlife. But once misery hits, once Egyptians are made into slaves, and once they find their liberation, for the first time in Egyptian philosophy, you have the concept of afterlife. So I think it's just part of the way our brain works. If you do believe in an afterlife, it's a good thing. If you don't, it's a good thing. They both have negatives and positives, like everything else under the sun. That's it? No one else? We have 2 minutes. Any quickies out there? Grades. Let me just say a couple of things about your grade. Do whatever you can to pass this and other classes. It's only 16 weeks. Before you know it, it'll be gone. Finish Laney. Get yourself to a 4-year school. Get yourself a nice job. Get out of Oakland. Go to a bigger place, nicer place. It's only 16 weeks. Get your act together. I will do what I can to give you as many chances as my capacity allows for you to pass this class. All you need is a C. Stay in school. You want to drop this class, drop this class. Okay? You want to milk the system, milk the system. I don't care about those things. Just pass your classes and get done with Laney. Okay? Don't be like Matthew. Now, don't ask me questions about your grade because I honestly don't care. I just want you to pass. Your only task in being in this class while physically in class is for you to ask questions. Watch the audios, watch the video, or listen to the audios and watch the video. And if anything about them inspires you, write your questions on a piece of paper and then bring them to class. Ask them. We'll talk about them. If none of those things inspire you, do the assignments nevertheless, but ask questions that come out of your own life experiences. Don't make comments. I don't care for your opinions. Yeah.
Is it invalid to ask you the person in class question that we posted for the weekly question?
No.
Then I had asked you what I could ask you.
Yeah, you can ask. Yeah. You can ask your questions. Anyone else before we go home and come back on Wednesday? Yeah, Isabel.
For submission.
Isabel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For submission times on assignments, is it just before class or is it the day before?
It's Sunday, 11
Sunday before midnight.
before midnight, yeah. Yeah, the system does it. I don't do it. Yeah. Anyone else? Kasara? You have a minute. No one? Well, listen. Yeah.
Do you take the time to answer a question?
No.
Or you just-
I don't give feedback. And there are a couple of reasons. It really does take a long time to be able to ask good questions. And it takes even a longer time to be able to write well. It really does take a long time. You know, and right now I think people's lives are far too busy and they're far too young to be able to kind of master that particular art. So am I going to sit there, spend like 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes reading each essay to figure out what the heck this person is saying? No. I'm just going to look at how pretty your writing is. The font color, the spacing, font size.
So if you just grade for completion and not for like actual.
I mean, I read them. I just don't read them. You know, it's like what people say, I love you, I just don't love you. But it's been a joy. See you guys on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.